Okay, so you've made it past the basic techniques in Photoshop. Now we're going to look at some intermediate techniques we can use in enhancing our images. The first one for assignment 9 is going to be looking at uh, using a non-destructive technique to dodge and burn areas within the image. We use dodge and burn to lighten and darken areas that need to be corrected within an image, like maybe a shadow or where we need extra light. We can lighten up an image, or we can darken the edges to kind of make like this ring around. There's a lot of reasons we use dodge and burn, but the best way to do it is non-destructively, so that you can go back and change, delete, uh, readjust anything that is on that layer. So just like in the other video that you watched, this is my technique's just a little bit different than the one in the video. But first off, you're going to need to for sure download the images, get them in a folder on your desktop. Here again, I've got my Photoshop folder. I've moved all of my basic images into a folder that I created called Basic, so that I could not have such a cluttered place to find my images. And inside that are the 3 images we're going to be working on in this exercise. So we're going to open Photoshop. I've kind of gotten rid of a lot of the palettes over here. To do that, you can just grab a palette by its tab and drag it to the left, and just click the X if you want to get rid of it if your area is too cluttered. Uh, I like to have it here so you can at least see the menu options when I click them out and we're not so cluttered. So here we go. We're going to open File, Open uh, the number 1 image. This, and I'm going to start off by this area right up here at the top. I really don't want in the image, so I'm going to crop that out. I'm going to use the crop tool. Again, you can push C on your keyboard, and it'll take you to the crop tool. And I'm going to clear it. I'm going to hit the clear button up here in the options bar, so that anything that might have been set here in the uh, options 4x5" at 300, we're going to clear that out just so it doesn't resize this image to any certain size. I'm going to drag a crop box, and I'm going to move it up just to where I take off that little distracting element at the top. And I'm going to click the apply button, or I could hit enter. Now, it's a pretty interesting image, but it could be made more interesting with some dodging and burning. So we're going to create a layer and uh, do our dodging and burning on it. So under your layers palette, in the right hand corner, upper right hand corner, you're going to click and you're going to get new layer. You can also use Shift Control N, as you can see here, and it will give you the new layer dialog box. I'm going to call this Dodge and Burn. And I want to use the mode. These are the blending modes. We're just going to do it overlay, and we're going to fill with a neutral 50% gray. Okay, so it's just like you saw in the other video, but it's just a gray layer. But because it's on overlay, we don't actually see anything being applied. It won't apply any dodge and burn until we use our dodge and burn tools over here to either darken or lighten areas within the image. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the burn tool first. I'm going to click that, and you can see my cursor has turned to a brush size. So I can adjust the brush size up here with the brush options. I can make it larger or smaller, and I can also control the hardness. Now on dodging and burning, I almost always have it set to 0 or under 25%. I don't ever dodge and burn usually with uh, a hard-edged brush. So I'm just going to go ahead and have it set to 0. I'm going to bring over here, and you can also use your right and left bracket buttons, see, to make your brush size larger or smaller. What I want to do is to try to darken this area in the background to make the face of the lion kind of pop out. And I'm only going to work at maybe 50% or less. I might even go like 40%, so that as I do dodging and burning, I can build it up onto the dodge and burn layer and not have it all at one time. So I'm going to get a fairly large brush. Again, it's got a very soft edge. And then I'm just going to begin to burn around this area that is outside of the face of the lion. I'm just holding down the button and clicking, and it's just darkening. As you can see, it's just putting some darkness on that gray layer. And what it does, it just kind of puts emphasis on the light areas. So this technique is called ring around. Obviously, it's because it puts a ring around the image. You'll hear that quite a few times. Burn a ring around. So I'm also going to take my brush, make it a little bit smaller, and I'm going to darken up some of these areas within the mouth, maybe in the eye here. It just depends on what you want darker, what you want light. So, I wish that the eye would stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to come back here in a minute and sort of dodge that area to make it a little lighter. But again, use large brushes, small brushes, whatever it takes to do the areas you want to control. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and grab a dodge tool, and I want to dodge on this eye a little bit here. So I'm going to make it really small. I'm going to come in here and dodge the areas that I want a little bit lighter. Make these whiskers. And the good thing about having a non-destructive layer like this is you can turn it off and on. You can see that it's really changed the look of this image quite a bit just by dodging and burning. So you can come in here, do whatever you need to do. I'm going to make a little bit bigger brush and kind of lighten this tongue a little, maybe these teeth here. So you're just going to work on it till you get it. It's all kind of subjective as to what you want light and what you want dark. It's not up to me, because this will be your image that you're going to turn into. So just do as much or as little as you want to do to this image. Again, you can kind of turn it off and on and see what you've done. Once you're finished with it, you're okay with the corrections you've made, I want you to go to image size and change the height to 800 pixels. Make sure it's on pixels, not inches. You don't want 800 inch. That would be huge. So we're going to say 800 pixels and say OK. Now we're going to save this off as a Photoshop document, which will save that layer. You could come back in 2 years and open this back up and adjust this dodge and burn layer, or delete it and create a new one, because it's always going to be here if you save it as a Photoshop document. So we're going to go here and we're going to save this as a PSD, Photoshop document. And again, I'm going to add my name, Mike Brown underscore. And I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to close it. And then I'm opening up the number 2. Again, you're going to work on all these images the exact same way. So you're going to create a new layer, which is an overlay layer filled with 50% gray. Now, as you can see here, my image is kind of behind my layers palette, so I'm going to move my layers palette out of the way so that I can see what I'm working on. I want his face to be a little bit lighter. It's kind of dark because he's looking down and he's got a ball cap on. So I'm going to use the dodge tool and I'm going to make it pretty good size so that it covers a lot of his face at the same time. And by using a 50% exposure, like I said, you can just build it up each time that you click and drag. You're just adding a little bit more of a dodge to that area. Okay, maybe even on his arm. Maybe that's a little dark there. And then I'm going to grab my burn tool and I'm going to burn the edges. Burn this down so we can again put some emphasis on him. Burn down some of that. Some things distract, and so by burning them away, they become less distracting. Maybe even the neck here, I want to make it a little bit darker. So if I look at it, it changes from sort of a dull image to something with some drama or good contrast between the lights and darks. And again, I'm going to go to the image size once I'm done, and I'm going to change the width to 800. What it is, I'm changing whichever one is the largest dimension to 800. And then I'm going to save that as Mike Brown underscore number 2. I'm going to close it. And lastly, I'm going to work on this image again with a new layer, overlay, fill with 50%. And then I'm going to come in here. Oops, I burnt in that area. Don't worry if you accidentally do something. You can always just use the opposite tool and lighten it back up. So I wanted to be able to see her face. It was kind of a dull gray night when I took this image. So I want to kind of make it appear that there was a little more light coming from the left side here on these people. There we go. Now sometimes you might want to zoom in. You could use your zoom tool. You could use control plus or minus, or you can use, if you're on a PC, you can use space bar and the control key and just drag, zoom in or out. If you're on a Mac, you'll use the command key and the space bar. But that way you can come in here and really, kind of work in areas that are a lot finer in detail. A little bit grainy because it's so low and it was such a dark night. So here I'm going to lighten up some of the highlights in her hair. Yeah, maybe not that much. And then I might take the burn tool and really burn down this background again. Maybe get rid of that dirty foot and put some emphasis on these two folks. Once you've got what you want, image size, height of 800, and save it as number 3. Mike Brown. Save. So now, the other thing I want you to do is I want you to find an image that you like or one that you've taken and do a dodge and burn layer on it and put it in the folder. So that will be your 4th image. You'll have the 3 images that I've put up, and then you'll have your own image, and you'll save it as your name _ 004. Okay, so that way, and just upload it to the Dropbox. All right,